Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's meeting of the Cabinet. Welcome also to those members of the public and press who continue to join us via the live stream to YouTube. During this live broadcast, members and officers are asked to please ensure that mobile phones are placed in silent mode and that microphones are switched off when not in use. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence. Would member services please report any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Councillor Bowden. Apologies received from Councillor Hoy.
Thank you. Agenda item 2 are the previous minutes on pages 5 to 10 of the agenda pack. We're being asked to approve the public minutes of the on pages 5 to 10 as a correct record of the meeting which took place on the 20th of February 2023. May I ask any member who doesn't agree with the minutes to indicate that now, please? I see no objections to the proposal to approve the minutes as a correct record, so they're now agreed and I shall sign them. At agenda item 3, urgent items, there are none. Agenda item 4, interests. This is to receive any declarations of interest under the local code of conduct or any interest under the code of conduct on planning matters in respect of any items to be discussed at this meeting. If you have anything to declare, please can you inform the meeting now? No hands are raised, thank you. If anything occurs to any member during the course of the meeting that they have an interest that they should declare, please do declare it at the earliest possible opportunity. Thank you. Agenda item 5 is the Investment Board update and review of the commercial and investment strategy, which is on pages 11 to 20 of the report. I will formally propose this, and the report speaks for itself, really. We're still at the stage, as far as Fenland Future Limited is concerned, of amassing all of the costs which are necessary before any work can actually start on any project, as is always the case with a new building company, which is effectively what it is. And all of those costs are very clearly laid out in the report that we've got. Next year, 2023-24, we should hope to start seeing some spades going into the ground, and this long-term project will eventually start to materialize. But the report itself speaks for itself and is a clear explanation about what's happened in the course of the last 12 months. May I formally ask for a seconder, please? Councillor Benny, thank you very much indeed. I'll open the item for discussion. Any comments that anyone would like to make? No? Good. The recommendations are set out on page 12, and it's for Cabinet to note the report from the Investment Board and to approve a review of the current commercial and investment strategy as determined by the Constitution and in light of the current economic environment, and to delegate this review to the Section 151 officer for tabling at a future meeting. Is that agreed by members? Agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. Move on to agenda item 5, which is the proposed operating model, the POM, which is linked to the accommodation review. And this is to be found on pages 21 to 30 of your agenda pack. Again, I will formally propose this, and the paper really does speak for itself. I will draw particular attention to the diagram, which is shown under paragraph 2.7 above paragraph 2.8, which shows the interrelationship that there is between jobs which are time and location dependent or non-dependent. And it is quite a useful diagram just to show how decisions need to be made in terms of what type of flexibility is appropriate for what types of operation. But the most important thing within this report is what's listed in paragraph 4.2, which are the fundamental principles which need to be followed to ensure that we successfully are able to move towards what is being called the Fenland flexible working arrangements. And for the sake of those online, I think that it's actually important to say what these principles are. And they are, first of all, the plans to allow increased flexibility of where and when work is carried out must ensure that the best possible service is maintained for local residents and businesses. That is the first and foremost thing. The work delivered by services, teams and individuals should be assessed against time and location dependency to determine the future formalised working style prior to any agreements taking place. All plans to work from an alternative location or time is dependent on the needs of the council and its customers and is subject to ongoing review of its operational effectiveness. Leadership and engagement of teams is critical to planning assumptions. Rather than replicating how we've previously delivered our work, a commitment to flexibility and being constantly open to challenging ourselves in relation to new ways of working and delivering services is required. Work has less impact on the environment, reducing the council's carbon footprint and making the best use of its assets. Presence does not equal performance. Performance is managed on results and outcomes rather than presence, which will involve results and outcomes, which will involve different ways of keeping in contact with staff, of assessing workloads and monitoring and measuring performance. And most important to achieve that, training and support in relation to new ways of working will be provided to managers and staff, which is absolutely crucial. An open, fair and consistent approach is applied within teams based on service and customer needs. The use of both virtual and digital working is critical. However, it is accepted that there is sometimes great benefit in being face-to-face, such as when inducting new people or supporting less experienced colleagues to develop their knowledge and skills. The emergence of artificial intelligence and its practical application to the running of the council, its services and working practices offers significant potential and will form a key strand of this TA2. It's vital the POM and the supporting Finland flexible working arrangements policy framework supports the transformation of the council in the short, medium and longer terms. Physical and virtual office spaces will be merged with tools in place to make workspaces accessible and inclusive by enabling workspaces to be used flexibly and collaboratively. And finally, flexible meeting spaces and supporting technology will enable meetings to be productive, whatever the location of the participants, and ensure that all parties are able to take part and contribute effectively, regardless of their location. So quite a number of basic principles which are involved in that. The most important being, this is designed to maintain and improve services, and service delivery quality is fundamental. And in order to achieve that, number one, we must have good training, not merely of all staff, but particularly of managers, because the skills of managing remotely are very different from the skills of managing in person. And secondly, absolutely fundamentally vital that we get our ITC systems in place which allow any changes to take place smoothly and also allow us to have better connectivity with officers than is the case already. So that's a very brief summary of what this report says. May I have a formal seconder, please, for this? Councillor Mrs. French, thank you very much indeed. Now open it up to the floor for any comments from members. Councillor Laws.
I'd like to make just a couple of comments because I'm very staff focused. Firstly, I'm pleased to see that training will be implemented, essential because there's a whole different range of skills required to actually manage virtually, and also the staff themselves to have that understanding. Second thing, I do think we need to make improvements to our IT system. I think that's essential and investment needs to be made. And most importantly, we are talking virtually. And I do completely agree with flexibility, working from home, working in the building. But the important thing is for the staff especially, and I think for the managers, that they still have that face-to-face contact. So on a regular basis, it needs to be put in place that they have team meetings. I think that's very important. And I do think that the one thing that could be missing here is amazingly that when you work in an environment where you're with your colleagues, you pick up vital information, you learn different skills. I don't think you're going to lose it with this flexibility, but I do think it's important that the team meet regularly and actually have those one-to-one meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, that's very helpful. Any other comments from any members? No? Okay. The recommendations are set out on page 22 and are for Cabinet to agree the principles associated with the proposed operating model as set out within the report, and to note the need to develop a suite of associated policies to ensure the successful implementation of the proposed operating model. These are likely to be presented to the Audit and Risk Management Subcommittee in the future for consideration and approval. Is that agreed? Those in favour, please show. That's agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. Agenda item 7 is the recap dry recycling contract tender for bulking, transportation, sorting and sale of recycling materials, which is to be found on pages 31 to 36 of the agenda pack. Councillor Murphy, please may I invite you to propose this report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been a good contract that we've worked well over the last 9 years. It has provided us with a great value for money and costs us less than £10 a tonne. We get £50 a tonne back in recycling credits, so I see no reason to change it. This is another contract where we see the benefits of jointly procuring with the recap waste partnership authorities. It's a big contract, which makes it cheaper for us to take legal advice, procurement advice, and market intelligence to be in with other councils, the other 5 councils. Contracts are obviously more expensive than 10 years ago, and the future contract is likely to be just that. But we protect ourselves by being with other Cambridgeshire authorities. Next year, 2024, EPR should come in when the producers will be paying us directly for the packaging that we recycle, which will alter payments arrangements. And when we know the details of this from DEFRA, I will share them with you, but don't hold your breath. That's all I've got to say. After the talk about it, I will give the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. May I have a formal second up, please? Councillor Tierney, thank you very much. Now open the matter up for discussion or debate or questions. Any comments from anyone? I think, Peter, you laid that out. Oh, sorry.
Nope.
Yes, I think, Peter, you laid that out very clearly indeed. Thank you very much indeed. Do you want to say what the recommendations are?
Yeah, the recommendations, there's 5 of them. The first one is to agree that the council is committed to the procurement and appointment of one or more contractors to deliver joint materials, recyclable facilities, services for bulking, sorting, onward processing and sale of recyclable materials for all recap participating partners. 2, agree dedication to the corporate director and section 151 officer for the authorisation of the final invitation to tender to award the contract in consultation with the portfolio holder. 3, agree that Cambridgeshire County Council will nominate one or more preferred suppliers in collaboration with the partners for the provision of the services of bulking, sorting, onward processing and the sale of recyclable materials contract on behalf of the recap partners. 4, members should note that whilst providing procurement expertise, Cambridgeshire County Council are not party to any resulting contract. 5, members should note that the resulting contract will likely require an updated TEEP assessment of the recycling service, provision provided by Fenland, which will be presented to a future cabinet meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Is that agreed by members? Those in favour, please show. And that's agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. Agenda item 8 is the Whistlesea Southern Relief Road Strategic Outline Business Case, SOBC, on pages 37 to 44 of our agenda pack. May I ask Councillor Seaton, please, to propose this report.
Thank you, Chairman. This paper is outlining the Whittlesea Southern Relief Road Strategic Outline Business Case. Fenland District Council has been awarded £260,000 by the combined authority to deliver a Whittlesea Relief Road Strategic Outline Business Case project. The funding is from the CPCA Market Towns Programme and the repurposing of Whittlesea Growing Fenland Master Plan funding. The main factors for this CPCA decision being the Growing Fenland Master Plan for Whittlesea, the Whittlesea Town Council Relief Road Inception Study, and its positive outcome, along with 80% of respondents calling for this study to be progressed as part of the CPCA 2022-2023 budget review. Having secured the funding, we now need to turn our attention to the governance and procurement to commence the SOBC project. The report therefore requests that Cabinet establishes a project board. This will be similar to those already in operation for Maidie, March and Whittlesey stations. The draft terms of reference and proposed memberships are included. Note the procurement exercise to select a contractor to deliver the SOBC project. Approval of delegated authority to the portfolio holder for social mobility and heritage, including transport, is requested to award the contract following completion of the procurement. As third-party funding has been approved from the CPCA, a grant funding agreement between the CPA and the FDC is required. Delegated approval to the portfolio holder for social mobility and heritage is requested to sign the agreement on behalf of the FDC. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. May I have a formal seconder for that? Councillor Mrs. Laws, thank you very much indeed. I'll open the subject up to debate. Any comments or questions? Councillor Mrs. Laws first.
Thank you, Chair. I absolutely welcome this. Not only as a Whittlesey Town Councillor, but obviously for the number of people that are lobbying us regarding the traffic on the A605. I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn, but if there is an opportunity to be on that project board, I would welcome it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I think answering that question may be an appropriate thing to do. There is the opportunity, if in no other way, that there are two representatives from Whittlesey Town Council to be appointed. So it may be something that could be taken up at Whittlesey Town Council's full council meeting tonight. I saw Councillor Mrs. French next, and then Councillor Count.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so I'm pleased that this is going ahead for the people of Whittlesey. You've waited for many, many years, and I think it's your turn now.
Thank you, Councillor Count.
Thank you, Chairman. Just adding into Councillor Laws's request to be on the project board. My only experience of being on the Kingsdyke project board, which was of course something that we managed to build, get initiated under the Mayor Palmer, and then complete or the issue contracts under leadership when the county council was under Conservative control, and we took that through with heavy input from local members, and I sat on that board until I was replaced by the current administration. And what I discovered was we had the professional advice of officers, which was always welcome and very good and very robust, but sometimes it was the local input that really helped us to shape that project for the future. So I think however this is set up, it's got to be set up with some local input going into it, and it's vital for its completion. I'm glad that we got that project built, but it's insufficient for the needs of Whittlesey. And even when we actually managed, at one point in the delivery, we had to stall the project and look for a new contractor. And at that point in time, people were saying, actually, we'd be better off with the Sun Relief Road. And I said, yes, you may be, but it will be a few years before we can get that. At least we've got the money for this one. Let's get it built. So that we got that built, but we're now on to something else that's absolutely vital for that area. It always amazes me how much money gets spent on these projects to get it to the approval stage, to get hold of a load of money when they're perfectly obvious because of the queues, the congestion and the actual difficulties in the local area to start off with. I do wish there was a better system where we could get these things moving through faster, but it's not the responsibility of FDC to change the law, but we're glad that we have this funding from the CPCA, again from the Market Towns project, which was allocated under the former Mayor, James Palmer. So it's great to see this project moving ahead, and I do hope that the figures prove what we already all know. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Tierney first, and then Councillor Mrs. Laws.
Thank you, Chairman. As a Wisbech councillor, this obviously doesn't directly affect me, but what's good for one part of Fenland is good for all of Fenland. And I've heard Whittlesey councillors talking about this often enough to know that it's great news for Whittlesey. So I'm really pleased to see some forward momentum, and congratulations to those who've been championing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs. Laws.
I may come back in, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Stearney, and also Councillor Count. And I think it's important to remember this opens up growth and economy for Fenland itself. So it's just not the impact on Whittlesey, but it is the actual market towns as well and surrounding villages. And as we have all said for a long time, it's much needed. Whittlesey is the only Fenland town without a bypass, and we are taking enormous amounts of traffic. And I'm actually in the process of getting the surveys put together for the volumes of traffic that has increased, and not only the volume of traffic, but the size and weight and length of the vehicles that now use that road, which is important. And I think we've got a duty of care to the residents that actually live along Peterborough Road. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Benny.
Thank you. Anybody who's heard me speak on anything to do with Whittlesea bypass has always been very favourable. I've been a very supporter of this. I think it's a very good project. It is a gateway into the Fens, and from an economic point of view, it opens Whittlesea up from the overspill from investment from Peterborough and in further into Fenland. I think this will be an extremely good project that will benefit Fenland as a whole.
Thank you very much indeed. Any other comments from members? In which case I'll say a few words, not merely as leader of the council, but also as a Whittlesea member. First of all, the comments made by Councillor Count are entirely correct. Large infrastructure projects such as this are ridiculously cumbersome to get off the ground and take a long time, and you have to go through a laborious process. In projects such as this, it's a 7-stage process, and this is stage 1. Which might sound unpromising, but in fact, it starts at stage 0 and goes to stage 6. Stage 0 was satisfactorily achieved by Whittlesea Town Council itself, who managed to get an inception report produced, which was positive and which led to the justification for the strategic outline business case to be sought from the CPCA. And we've now managed to do that. There are further steps to go beyond the strategic outline business case. The next one is the outline business case. And as Councillor Count alluded to, an extraordinary amount of money has to be spent in the preparation of all of these things before you have one spade in the ground. But that is the way the system unfortunately works, and we're not in a position to change that system. As for the requirement of this, it's not merely what the current situation is within Whittlesea, annoying though that is for many individuals in terms of the amount of traffic going along the A605 all the way through Whittlesea, but it's the projection about what's going to be happening in the future, because we have projections in place which have been achieved, they've been produced as a result of planning applications which have taken place in the past, showing that with the growth that exists both within Fenland as a whole and in Peterborough, and particularly within Whittlesea, the traffic growth is going to be such that well before the end of the decade, the 2 main roundabouts in the centre of Whittlesea are going to be severely clogged up, both mornings and evenings, taking as much as 6.5 minutes to get through, which we know will mean that traffic will start using rat runs and will make life quite miserable for a large number of residents. And things will only get worse beyond that point. Being realistic about it, this is not going to be built before the end of this decade. And that's just being realistic. But by the end of this decade, the need will be absolutely obvious, which is why we're taking these steps now to prepare so that when the need is so absolutely obvious, we will get approval to go ahead and get the relief road actually built. So I'm very grateful to Councillor Seaton for the proposal he's put forward. Do you want to just explain to us, Councillor Seaton, what you're asking us to agree to?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'll read out, if I may, the recommendations that are as follows. Members are requested to confirm the establishment of the project board to oversee the business case project, confirm the board's remit, including its terms of reference and membership, note the procurement exercise to select a contractor to deliver the SOBC project, give approval for delegated authority to the portfolio holder for social mobility and heritage to award the contract. Third-party funding has been approved from the CPCA Market Towns budget for this work, and a grant funding agreement between the CPCA and FDC is required, and that this agreement requires an FDC to underwrite any capital overrun. Delegate approval to the portfolio holder for social mobility and heritage, with the portfolio holder for finance to sign the agreement on behalf of Fenland District Council. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. Those in favour, please indicate. That's agreed unanimously. Thank you all very much indeed. Agenda item 9 is 24 High Street, Wisbech, which is an update to be provided by Councillor Seaton.
Thank you, Chairman. As you can see from the report before us today, the update is almost identical to last month. This was at the time of writing, prior to the end of the pre-contract services agreement. That agreement has now been completed and our preferred bidder has presented their findings following 4 months of work. The key points include the estimated sums in the original bid have now been firmed up. The final contract value falls within the budget the council set for the project, following a recommendation from Cabinet. The construction period has been extended to 77 weeks in total. This is due to the difficult location and traffic management concerns that require addressing. It should be noted there will be almost no closure of the high street during the build. Any lorry movements will be controlled by banks people with limited delays for other traffic in the high street. The council expects to sign the construction contract in March, and a pre-start meeting will start in early May with a start on site estimate of the 22nd of May. Construction must commence prior to June due to an impending change in regulations. Outstanding details to be confirmed are necessary for the necessary site compound. The empty gap at 1112 High Street has been considered, but is not useful. Discussions are to take place with other site owners in the town close to the High Street. So I hope this gives members a positive update for this long-running and complex project. And the recommendation is that Cabinet notes the current position in relation to the 24 High Street construction project in Wisbech High Street. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Seaton. I'm happy formally to second that. I'm opening the matter up for discussion and debate and questions. Councillor Tierney.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. It's been a long road to get to this point, I think it's fair to say. And I sometimes worry that the public don't realise how much has already been done with the High Street project, how many buildings have already been helped with making improvements and how much change there has already been, because focus tends to be on the ones that are lagging rather than on the ones that are completed. But good work has been done, and thanks to everyone that's done that. It's really good news that we're seeing this, and it's even better news that we're going to do it without closing the high street for a longer extended time, which is the last thing that our shops need, our business need, and our residents need. So that's really good news. It does seem like it's going to take a long time, but it's a complicated project, I understand, and I'm just excited to see it moving ahead. So thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Any other comments from members? Good. We're being asked to note the report. Everyone in agreement with that? Agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Councillor Seaton. Move on to agenda item 10, which is the procurement of cleaning services from 2023 to 2027, which is on pages 47 to 50 of the agenda pack. Councillor Benny, may I invite you to propose this report?
Thank you, Chairman. I refer Cabinet to the papers submitted for this matter. The cleaning contract for Fenland District Council main occupied buildings is due to end on 31st of March 2023. At the conclusion of the current contract, after a 4-year period with the current cleaning provider, Accelerate Services Limited, Fenland District Council has, as a result of a relatively small number of occupied buildings that require cleaning, historically taken part in a shared contract with Cambridgeshire County Council, and it is proposed that this solution be maintained for the upcoming period. As a result of this pragmatic decision, the tender process has in the main been carried out by Cambridgeshire County Council and overseen by Fenland District Council's procurement officer. The tender has now been completed and the cleaning contract has provisionally been awarded to Atelier Services AMK Limited with a 3+1 year contract taking it to the 29th of March 2027 at the initial cost of 129,000 just over per annum. This equates to a reduction of 5.1%. All the current cleaning staff with Accelerate Services Limited who are contracted to clean Fenland District Council main occupied buildings have been tooped across to Atelier Service Net MK Limited for the remainder of their service. The provisional contract has been drafted to be flexible in nature, allowing both the onboard and offboarding of properties across the whole area. The only financial implications, should be a property be removed from the contract, would be staff redundancy costs should the contractor not be able to redeploy a member of staff to other work.
Thank you very much indeed. I'll formally second that as the portfolio holder for finance, and to say just how important that final couple of sentences were that you just said, Councillor Benny. given the accommodation review that we are currently undertaking, we don't know over the next 4 years just what our footprint is going to be. And it is absolutely vital, and it is included within this report, absolutely vital that the new arrangements do allow complete flexibility of onboarding and offboarding properties, so that whatever decisions we make, we're not going to find ourselves unduly penalised on a cleaning arrangement with Cambridgeshire County Council. And I actually welcome utilising Cambridgeshire County Council for this because of the economies of scale which they can provide. If we were to do this on our own, we would not have the opportunity, I believe, to get such favourable terms. So this is one case where I think it really is clearly justified to work in cooperation with Cambridgeshire County Council in order to achieve the best results for Fenland District Council. Happy to open this up for debate for anyone else who wishes to make any comment or question. Nothing? Okay, then the recommendation is set out on page 48 and asks Cabinet for approval to complete the procurement process in order that Cambridgeshire County Council may complete the execution of the cleaning contract with Italian serviced AMK Limited before the contract commencement date of the 1st of April 2023. Those in favour, please show. That's agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. Right, we move on to agenda item 11, the procurement of sewage effluent removal services, which is on pages 51 to 56 of our pack. And Councillor Benny, may I please ask you to propose this report as well?
Thank you, Chairman. I refer Cabinet colleagues to the paper submitted for this matter. The sewage treatment works, pumping stations, cesspit and other assets outlined in Schedule 1 require routine emptying, desludging as part of their ongoing maintenance and service programmes to maintain the safe and efficient operation of the Council's connected customers and the local environment to which treated effluent discharges. This service provision fulfills the Council's requirements to facilitate an effective sewage service and meet its legal and environmental obligations in accordance with site-specific Environment Agency discharge consents and best practice. The appointed contractor will be required to safely collect and appropriately dispose of foul sewage, waste, sludge and liquid effluent from the assets and other similar private assets as part of the Council's environmental enforcement action process. The current contract expires on the 31st of March 2023, and accordingly, officers have undertaken a contract renewal process, resulting in 14 returns were received. The full list of contractors with estimates, contract values based on typical routine service schedule is included for members within the report circulated. The intended outcome of this report is to clearly demonstrate that this essential procurement exercise has been undertaken in accordance with Council's requirements and members have sufficient information to approve the recommendations for delegating to officers to appoint.
Thank you very much indeed. May I have a formal seconder to that report? Councillor Mrs. Laws, thank you very much indeed. Any comments or questions from any members, please? Nothing. Okay. We are being asked to delegate to officers the appointment of the most advantageous tenderer as per evaluation under the Public Contract Regulations 2015, and therefore to undertake the Council's sewage effluent removal services for the coming 3-year period, commencing on the 1st of April 2023, including the option for a 2-year extension subject to agreement by both parties. Is this agreeable to members? Please show. Those in favour? That's agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. Right, we move on to agenda item 12, which is the renewal of IDOC's software application support and maintenance on pages 57 to 60 of the agenda pack. Councillor Tierney, may I please invite you to propose this report?
Thank you, Chairman. I know you've all read the report. The IDOC's management software is software that we use extensively across council business to progress our business through the council, and it will be hard to overstate quite how intrinsic it is to many areas of what the council does, including busy departments like planning and environmental health, amongst others. In fact, it is so deeply embedded in what we've done, including our transformational work that's been well received, that to not renew would be, well, it would be very difficult. It would create significant risks because it is so fundamental to what we do, and it will be expensive. So luckily, we're very happy with it and we think it's been working very well. So there's no need to, at this time, in my opinion, to look at that. And I would certainly recommend that we consider renewing for the 3-year period. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm happy formally to second that. Any comments or questions from any members? Then I'll just say a few words on this. It's absolutely appropriate for us to make this decision and to agree this today. And this covers the 3-year period starting in just over a couple of weeks' time. But we also need to bear in mind just how fundamental the transformation processes are that we're currently undertaking. So nothing is beyond question. And when we are planning for the future, looking into the medium and longer term, we have to, even a contract such as this, which has worked out very well for us so far, even something like that needs to be evaluated and thought through in terms of what we're trying to achieve without the bigger picture of overall transformation. As I say, as far as this renewal is concerned, I have no hesitation in being happy to agree to it. I'm just saying that we should keep an open mind about what may be needed in the medium and longer term. Right, those in favour of this renewal, please show. Thank you. That's agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. Agenda item 13 is the draft 6-month cabinet forward plan on pages 61 to 62. Are there any questions or comments on that? None. Okay, then the forward plan is noted for information. Thank you very much indeed. Agenda item 14 is for items which have been deemed urgent under agenda item 3, and there are none of those. Agenda item 15 is the Freedom Leisure Energy Crisis Support item, and that's on pages 63 to 86 of the agenda pack. Now, members will note that it has been proposed that Schedule 17 to this report is exempt from publication, and that has been comprised within the confidential agenda pack at pages 83 to 86. Now, we'll remain in public session for as much of this debate as it's possible to do. However, if any member does wish to discuss the content of Schedule 17, then following presentation of the report, please do confirm your intention and we'll take a vote at the appropriate time on whether to enter exempt session. But to the extent that we can keep the debate public and not refer to the detail in Schedule 17, I'd be very grateful indeed. Councillor Clark, may I please invite you to propose this report?
Freedom Leisure has asked the council to consider providing financial support and continued changes in service provision to fund the increase in energy costs to run the 4 leisure facilities. This report asks Cabinet to consider continued approaches to mitigate some of the excessive energy costs currently being placed on Freedom Leisure and to consider final options to support Freedom with such costs. Publicly owned leisure centres with swimming pools have been handed a financial boost following the announcement of a major new fund in yesterday's spring budget. The Chancellor outlined that 63 million of new money will be made available in a 1-year fund. The fund, which will be managed by Sport England, will allow local authorities to apply for funding for leisure centres with pools that face immediate cost pressures, including operational and maintenance costs and energy bills. In total, 40 million of the fund will be made available for investment in decarbonisation and long-term energy efficiency, while 23 million will help with costs to make these essential local hubs more energy efficient. This funding includes pools run on behalf of councils by charities such as Freedom. The details of the funding application process are not public as yet, but I expect that FDC or Freedom will make an application substantially reducing FDC's necessary financial support to Freedom as discussed in this Cabinet report. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. I'll formally second this as the portfolio holder for finance. The announcement in the budget yesterday was welcome, but the detail hasn't yet been provided to us. So we don't know what, if any, implication there will be for Finland. We can only hope that when we see the detail, we will find that it is helpful to Finland District Council's particular situation. It is very much to be welcomed. This didn't happen for part of the COVID period. It is very much to be welcomed that the monies are to be made available to local swimming pools, which are under third-party control, as well as being directly controlled by councils. We lost out very significantly because of that rule a couple of years ago. And given that the Freedom Leisure has charitable status, the announcement was that our situation will be such that we'll be able also to apply for money from this fund. Given that we don't know what effect it will be, it is nevertheless appropriate, I would suggest, for us to amend the recommendation slightly, so that we will, in offering to make a repayable loan up to a maximum sum of £250,000 for the 6-month period from the 1st of April 23, we will note that that represents 86% of the expected maximum excess energy cost, with the sum anticipated to be reduced by the continuing implementation of the mitigating measures put in place to reduce operating costs and energy consumption, as detailed in section 12 of the report. And my suggested additional wording is to say then, together with any additional government support for leisure centres' energy costs, so that we make sure that that is taken into account when any potential loan is considered on an open book basis. I'm happy to open this up now to questions or comments from members of the Cabinet. And as I say, please, if you have any intention of referring to any of the numbers, especially in Schedule 17, please warn me in advance. Thank you. I beg your pardon, Councillor Mrs. French.
Thank you. Yes, I welcome this and fully support this. But my only concern, I know that George Campbell has already been reduced in hours, and I would hate to see any more reductions, because I am getting a lot of complaints about this. But welcome the fact that the government have recognised there is a problem with bills.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from any members? Okay, we are being asked to note the considerable impact that the energy crisis continues to have on the leisure sector across the country, to note the continued good operational performance of the Fenland group of leisure centres managed by Freedom, to recognise the £4 return on investment that every £1 invested in sport and physical activity generates in England, and as part of that return, to recognise the essential role that the Council's leisure facilities play in helping to maintain the physical and mental health of our community, as highlighted in the report, to recognise the significant financial challenges that the Council itself is facing, to agree to maintain the reduction in operating hours, or opening hours, agreed in 2022 in order to continue to mitigate some energy costs in the leisure centres, to consider and to delegate to the Section 151 officer, working in consultation with the portfolio holders for finance and leisure, to offer direct financial support to Freedom Leisure in the form of a repayable loan on an open book basis up to a maximum sum of £250,000 for the period 1st of April 2023 to the 30th of September 2023, representing 86% of the expected maximum excess energy cost, with the sum anticipated to be reduced by the continuing implementation of the mitigating measures put in place to reduce operating costs and energy consumption, as detailed in Schedule 12, together with any additional government support for leisure centres' energy costs. Any repayable loan shall become payable through an annual deduction of any profit generated in excess of the levels predicted in the Leisure Operators Base Trading Account, the LOBTA, and this is a change from the current 50-50 profit share, which previous loans have been subject to, and will be subject to the performance of the business over the remaining contract period. The past 3 years have been particularly difficult for businesses across the country. Whilst the operational businesses have recovered well, there remains no certainty that excess profits will be made in the future. And to instruct officers alongside other industry experts with input from the energy market to investigate the likely longer-term impact of the energy supply costs on the management of leisure facilities, reporting back to Cabinet with options that consider a longer-term approach to managing the situation. And this report is to be presented alongside a further report regarding Freedom Leisure and potential energy support for the remainder of 2023-24, and a review of the ongoing actual costs to date. Is this agreeable to members? Please indicate if you're in support. That's agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. Now, agenda item 16 contains exempt information. Now, if we look at pages 87 to 98 of the agenda pack, it does contain an update on Wisbech Park Pavilion construction contract. Now, it's been proposed that Schedule 10 to this report is exempt from publication, and this is comprised within the confidential agenda pack at page 97. Now, again, we'll remain in public session for as much of the debate as it's possible. However, if any member wishes to discuss the specific content of Schedule 10, basically meaning if you want to talk about any of the numbers which are involved, then particularly the actual tender figures, then following the presentation of the report, please confirm your intention and I'll take a vote on whether and when to enter exempt session. If we can avoid talking about those specific numbers and the actual tender figures, then it won't be necessary to go into exempt session. Councillor Murphy, may I invite you to propose the report?
Thank you, Chairman. As Cabinet knows, the Council developed two separate bids for the CPCA Market Towns Fund and CCC's Community Capital Fund to fund the development of a pavilion in Wisbech Park. The pavilion has been designed to be a specific size and quality that fitted the funding made available. Inflation has exceeded original estimates, and this has impacted on expected costs, given the project development period. Late last year, following the quantity surveyor cost assessment, we value engineered some aspects of the original design to reduce cost further. As at this time, an assessment of the ground in Wisbech Park highlighted the need for a piled foundation, not a standard or slab foundation. This has added unanticipated costs. The final design and specification was then put out to tender in December. This process has attracted 7 tenderers. Unfortunately, tendered bids are in excess of the current budget available. Whilst our QS estimates were regrettably too low, we have a number of bids so we can be assured that the costs received are realistic, given the competitive nature of the tender process.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Murphy. You turn your microphone off, please. Thank you. Right, thank you for that. May I have a formal second for that, please? Councillor, Ms. Clark, thank you very much indeed. Right, any comments from any members? Any speeches anyone wishes to make? Councillor Tierney.
Of course, Chairman, you'd expect me to say we're all excited about the pavilion, and we're pleased every time we see a little bit of progress. It's good to see it moving forwards, and the sooner we can get it done, the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs. Trench.
Thank you. Yes, I do welcome this. This is some of the funding that came from Cambridge County Council when Council Count was actually the leader of County Council. But there was a meeting last year that if you don't get on with this, you're going to lose the funding. I do sit on the Cosmic Committee, and we fought hard to keep this. So please get it done as soon as possible.
Thank you. Any other comments from anyone? Yeah. Well, we have a slightly unusual arrangement here at this point, in that we're being asked to make a choice between two things. We're being asked whether to continue the project with the tendered costs and estimated capital requirement from FDC detailed within exempt Schedule 10, subject to tender assessments, or to suspend the project due to the cost implications. With the agreement, I hope, of Councillor Murphy, my suggestion is that I will put to the meeting that we continue the project with the tendered costs and estimated capital requirement from FDC detailed within exempt section Schedule 10, subject to those tender assessments, if that's acceptable to Councillor Murphy. But that is the proposal in front of us now. Those in favour, please show. That's agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. The next agenda item 17, concerns a report. Oh, my apologies, I didn't quite complete all of the. I was so excited about having a choice between two different things. I ignored the rest of the recommendations. Given that we've decided to continue, I now need also to take a vote to delegate to the Section 151 officer, working in consultation with the portfolio holders for finance and environment, to facilitate the additional capital sum required as detailed in the exempt schedule 10, allowing acceptance of the best value compliant tender when test assessments are completed following FDC's Code of Procurement, and to delegate to the Section 151 officer, working in consultation with the portfolio holders for finance and environment, to enter into a construction contract with the best value compliant tenderer to build the Wisbeach Park Pavilion. Those in favour, please show. And that is agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed, and thank you, Chief Executive. Right, members will note on agenda item 17 that this item is said to contain information which is exempt from disclosure under paragraph 3 and 5 of Schedule 12A, Part 1 of the Local Government Act 1972, because it is of a commercially sensitive nature relating to the financial and business affairs of Fenland District Council. It also contains legally privileged information. Further, we are advised that the public interest test has been applied and that on this occasion the balance lies in favour of the exemption. May I ask any member who doesn't agree with this assessment and therefore doesn't agree with the proposal to exclude the press and public during the discussion of this item to please raise their objection now. I see no objection. I do need, I think, to take a formal vote on this. Those in favour of excluding the press and public for this agenda item, which is the final one, please show. That's agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. Member services may please now make the necessary arrangements to sever the link to YouTube, enabling us to continue the meeting in exempt session.